गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। तो पिला आज स्टार्ट करिया नॉन्स्ट इक्वेशन। तो नॉन्स्ट इक्वेशन हमारा फोर्थ वीडियो इलेक्ट्रोकेमिस्ट्री चैप्टर रो पिला माने। तो इलेक्ट्रोकेमिस्ट्री रे तो आज हमें बुझिया नॉन्स्ट इक्वेशन। तो नॉर्मली व्हाट इज नॉन्स्ट इक्वेशन? आज वी ऑल नो दैट for every galvanic cell, if you have to determine the EMF of a cell or cell potential, then you have to put a formula, and that formula is E cell equals to E cathode minus E anode. For general जदि आम देखा तापर आम जदि आम लिखा ई सेल आमर केमिति कैलकुलेट करा जाए? ई सेल आमर केमिति कैलकुलेट करा जाए ना ई कैथोड माइनस ई एनोड। ठीक अच्छे, ये आमर रिडक्शन पोटेंशियल बेसिस रे आमर कैलकुलेट करा जाए। ठीक अच्छे, आम पढ़ीचे क्लियर पूरा। तो एग्जैक्टली बट पॉइंट इज व्हाट this formula was only be satisfied for a general condition, and that condition is standard. That condition is standard condition. That means what? Standard condition means it must satisfy standard condition. Okay, standard condition means it must satisfy 1 m concentration, 298 Kelvin, okay, 1 atm pressure. So as you all clear that these conditions must be satisfied for any galvanic cell, and for that galvanic cell we can easily determine the EMF of a cell, and with formula E cathode minus E anode. Clear? But the problem is what? When there is a difference in the electrode potential, or there is a difference in the concentration, especially concentrations of solution. Let me take a simple example first. Okay, let us take a galvanic cell. Here it is an example of galvanic cell. I have just draw a galvanic cell. Okay, and in this galvanic cell we have two rods. We all know that we must take electrodes and respective solutions. If I take zinc electrodes, then zinc sulfate solution must be taken. If I take copper electrode, then copper sulfate solution will be taken. This is a copper electrode. This is a copper electrode. This is a zinc electrode. Clear? Then if we have to connect these two electrodes by using a metallic wire, external metallic wire with a voltmeter, we can easily connect both of them. And by a salt bridge also. We all know that what is the function of salt bridge. The function of salt bridge is that it must maintain the electrical neutrality between two half cells. Clear? Yes or no? Very simple. So the main point is what? If I have to write E naught cell, then it must have a formula that E cathode minus E anode. Why? In case of only standard condition, okay, in case of only standard condition, that is 1 m, then this formula must be written. That means if zinc sulfate solution have 1 m concentration, copper sulfate solution have 1 m concentration, then we have to put this formula E naught cell is equal to E naught cathode minus E naught anode, or E cathode minus E anode. Very simple. But the problem arises when there is a difference in the concentration of between two half cells. Okay, if I have to take this zinc sulfate solution with molarity 0.001 m and copper sulfate solution is having concentration 0.1 m, then there is a difference in their concentrations. When there is a difference in their concentrations, then there is a different number of ions will be obtained in that solutions also. As you all know that in our previous video, electrons where mainly coming from what? Coming from anode goes to cathode by using a voltmeter or through voltmeter, where a pointer was present which shows the flow of electron. That means the current flow must be from cathode to anode. Very simple. But when there is a difference in the concentrations, that means we have to take here 0.001 m of zinc sulfate solution and 0.1 m of copper sulfate solution. Then what happens? How can we easily calculate the EMF of a cell? Then we have to put that formula or a equation, and that equation is called as NERNST equation. Clear? So what is the definition of NERNST equation? Okay, definition. So definition of NERNST equation is when EMF of a cell was to be determined when EMF of a cell was to be determined by taking two half cells with non-standard conditions. Okay, what is non-standard conditions? Non-standard conditions means concentration must not be same. That means both half cells must have different concentration. So we have to write that in the bracket. Both half cell have different concentration. As you clearly see here, we have taken an example 0.001 m zinc sulfate solution, whereas copper sulfate is having 0.1 m. So that means we have to add a formula here, what, and that equation or that formula is called as NERNST equation. Okay, called as when EMF of a cell was to be determined by taking two half cells with a non-standard condition, both half cells have different concentration, then that equation is known as NERNST equation. Very simple. Then that equation is known as NERNST equation. Clear? So now we have to calculate very easily how NERNST equation can be easily determined. Clear? To calculate the NERNST equation, we have to take some example. Let us take the symbol of metal is M. Okay, as you all know that in E cell we need E cathode minus E anode. That means reduction potential is needed. So first of all we have to take Mn plus aqueous. What is Mn plus? Let me take a simple example. As you clearly see here, zinc sulfate solutions contain what? Zn2 plus. Copper sulfate solutions contain what? Copper 2 plus. We all know that copper 2 plus undergoes reduction. That means copper 2 plus 2 electron gives copper solid. Like this, Mn2 plus 2 n electron, not 2 electron, n electron gives M solid. Very simple. Clear? If for this equation I have to determine the NERNST equation, then for this equation the NERNST equation will be E Mn plus by M means solid, is equals to E naught Mn plus by M. This means what? This means electrode potential we have to read as electrode potential of metal or standard electrode potential of metal minus, okay, minus RT by NF, RT by NF ln, okay, ln RT by NF ln M. M means metal, concentration of M, product M, okay, reactant is Mn plus, Mn plus, clear? So this is the NERNST equation, okay. But for solid, as we all know that metal is a solid, M is solid, okay, so it will become what? For as M is a solid, M is a solid, active mass or concentration of solid must be equals to 1. So the NERNST equation will become what? So the NERNST equation will become E Mn plus by M is equals to E naught Mn plus whole divided by M minus RT by NF, okay, RT by NF ln, sorry, 1 by, this becomes 1 by Mn plus, clear? Very simple. So here R is a constant, okay, R is called as gas constant, clear? Here R is called gas constant. Now F is called 1 Faraday with value 96487 exact, but approximately we have to write that 96500 coulomb, clear? T means temperature, T means temperature, okay. Then so this equation is actually called as NERNST equation, okay, but this equation is for only one electrode, okay, for one electrode this equation, but we have to take some example. If I have to take this zinc copper sulfate solution, this zinc copper sulfate cell, then how can we easily calculate the what EMF of a cell, okay. Now come to, now let us take an example of, zinc copper sulfate cell, okay. For zinc copper sulfate cell having different concentration, okay, same concentration, in same concentration we have to put this formula, what? E naught cell is equals to E cathode minus E anode, but this is what? This is for different concentration, as you clearly see in this diagram, 0.001 m and 0.1 m. The both half cells have different concentration. If their concentration is 1 m, then we don't have to put this formula, NERNST equation, okay. But if these these two half cells have different concentration, then we have to put this formula, NERNST equation, called as NERNST equation, simple, okay. Now first of all for zinc half cell, Zn2 plus Zn E naught Zn2 plus Zn minus RT by 2F ln 1 by Zn2 plus, clear? This is for zinc, okay. For copper E Cu2 plus Cu means E naught Cu2 plus Cu solid minus RT by 2F ln 1 by Cu2 plus aqueous. As we all know that active mass of solid, it means zinc or copper solid is equal to 1. Here it is written. Okay, so very simple. Then we have to calculate its EMF of a cell. Okay, as we all know that E cell is equals to E cathode minus E anode. Okay, cathode, here cathode is copper, anode is zinc, so E cathode minus E anode. Simple. E cathode minus E anode equals to E cathode E naught Cu2 plus by Cu minus RT by NF means 2F ln 1 by Cu2 plus minus of E naught Zn2 plus by Zn minus plus RT by 2F ln of 1 by Zn, sorry, it is not clearly visible. Okay, ln Zn 2 plus, clear? Okay, so if I have to take common, then what happens? Okay, we will get a formula. Formula A must become E naught copper 2 plus by copper minus of E naught Zn2 plus by zinc plus RT by 2F ln 1 by Zn2 plus minus of RT by 2F ln 1 by Cu2 plus. ठीक, clear? Then E naught minus E naught copper 2 plus copper minus E naught Zn2 plus slash zinc can also be written as what? E naught cell. E naught cell. Okay, this is E naught cell. Okay, E naught cell is equal to E naught cathode minus E naught anode. E naught cell. This term can be written as E naught cell. Okay, now if I have to take common RT by 2F, okay, RT by 2F is equal to RT by 2F E naught cell is equal to E naught cell plus, okay, E naught cell plus RT by 2F. Okay, RT by 2F common RT by 2F ln of Zn2 plus, sorry, ln of copper 2 plus, plus copper 2 plus by Zn2 plus. Okay, so if I have to simplify all these values, then we will get a simple value, and that value is E naught cell. If I have take here minus, then this term will be reversed. RT by NF, these are all constant. R value 8.31, temperature 298 Kelvin, Faraday 96500. If I have to calculate all these terms, then we will get a value 0.0591 approximately by 0.059, you can write there 0.059 by 2 log of, or ln, if I have to convert ln into log, then what happens? 2.303 must be multiplied. So 2.33 also multiplied, and we'll get what formula? We'll get a value of 0.059 log of Zn2 plus whole divided by copper 2 plus. Okay, so this equation is for what? Zinc copper sulfate cell, and this equation is called as NERNST equation. This equation is called as NERNST equation. Clear? That means we must take anode on top side and cathode on down side. So what is the formula? What is the general formula for NERNST equation? The general formula of NERNST equation must be, E cell is equals to E naught cell minus of 0.059 by n log of anode minus cathode. Clear? This is the formula of NERNST equation. I hope everyone clearly understand what I tell you here. If any doubt, you can message me or comment on my YouTube channel. Okay, so this is our NERNST equation. Thank you everyone.